This video that you see right now is of yet another incident overseas involving Iran and one of our ships. 4 Iranian Revolutionary Guard vessels harassed our destroyer, the USS Nitz, yesterday near the Strait of Hormuz, conducting a high-speed intercept, closing within a short distance. Our destroyer was conducting a routine transit in the vicinity of the internationally recognized strait.
Wow. Blow them out of the water. Get rid of them. That's the Strait of Hormuz right there. That is one of the most prolific oil shipping channels. It may be the most prolific oil shipping channels in the world, along with the Suez Canal. They start playing around like that.
We start with the latest provocation from north of the border. North Korea test-fired yet another submarine-launched ballistic missile on Wednesday, with analysts saying it was successful. But how threatening is the regime's latest launch? Experts in Seoul say there is serious cause for concern, as Pyongyang could have fully operational SLBMs in months rather than years.
Various experts and officials agree that North Korea's test firing Wednesday of a submarine-launched ballistic missile was a success and shows the regime's missile technology has vastly improved. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Thursday that Kim Jong-un closely supervised the launch and hailed it as Pyongyang's greatest success and one that pushes North Korea to the very front rank of nuclear military powers. The young leader also said the U.S. mainland and its operational theater in the Pacific are now within North Korea's striking range. The regime has even grander plans. A U.S.-based analyst says North Korea will try to build a bigger submarine that can be equipped with larger missiles. This means Pyongyang will have to carry out more tests to perfect the technology.
South Korean government officials and military experts say the launch is proof North Korea has made technological progress, as the solid fuel missile displayed improved guidance and re-entrance capabilities. Japan has confirmed that it was the first North Korean missile to come down within its air defense identification zone.
The UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting as we speak to discuss North Korea's SLBM launch. Earlier, UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon expressed deep concern about the latest developments and said Pyongyang had ignored international calls for it to change its attitude. He urged North Korea to take measures to ease tension and at the same time return to talks on its denuclearization. The emergency meeting was convened at the request of the United States and Japan and is taking place behind closed doors.
The State Department warned Americans against all travel to Gaza and urged those present to depart as soon as possible when border crossings open. The warning follows a flare-up Sunday, which began when a rocket was fired from the strip on the Israeli border town of Sderot. In response, Israel launched dozens of strikes against Hamas targets in Gaza.
To the American University in Afghanistan under attack tonight. Students barricaded in classrooms, explosions and gunfire erupting at the university in Kabul. Tweets, messages sent from inside the school. And the State Department now warning Americans in the city to stay away from the area.
Militants stormed the American University in Kabul, witnesses hearing a loud explosion and gunfire. Students barricading themselves in classrooms. One of them, Masoud Hassani, a photographer for the Associated Press, sending out this harrowing message. This may be my last tweets.
He kicked our door by his feet 2 times, but we were panicked.
He jumped from a second-story window to escape. Afghan security forces searching the campus for the terrorists in the unfolding attack. It's unknown if any Americans were inside, the State Department warning people to stay away. At least a dozen injured, taken to a local hospital. Some people are believed to still be stuck inside the campus.
With today's attack, what was once considered a symbol of hope for Afghanistan's future is now clearly in the crosshairs.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Syrian opposition forces have taken back the Syrian border town of Jarablus from ISIS with the help of Ankara. The military operation into Syria began with cross-border airstrikes, but But this morning, Turkish tanks crossed into Syria. Officials say Russia is aware of the attacks.
Strangely enough, it's likely that the United States is going to be paying a price for it, because the Turks have been straightforward about this. They've said that they're not going only for ISIS. They said they're going after one of the United States' closest allies in Syria, on the ground.
This morning, our army started an operation against terrorist organizations like ISIL and the PYD in northern Syria, who have been threatening our country.
Turkey views the PYD, or Syrian Kurds, as the same thing as ISIS, so terrorists. They don't really make a distinction between the two, and Jarablus for Turkey has been a red line. They've said time and time again that if the Syrian Kurds try to take Jarablus, Turkey would intervene. Interesting thing here is that Turkey is a NATO member. It is an ally of the United States. So are the Syrian Kurds. They're an integral part of the US-led anti-ISIS coalition, and for them to be at each other's throats, launching military operations against each other. The fear now is that the US-led coalition will be hampered in its fight against ISIS, with members now officially at war, launching military operations against one another. They will be impeded in the greater battle against the jihadists.
Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko has attended a military ceremony in the eastern city of Chuhuyev. He inspected his army, navy, air force units and modernized military equipment. The show was intended to highlight the capabilities of the country's military. Fresh tensions with Russia has reignited fears that the fragile ceasefire deal brokered in February last year could collapse. Russian President Vladimir Putin's office said Moscow has discussed the Ukraine issue with France and Germany and condemned the recent fighting in eastern Ukraine. Putin is scheduled to meet with German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President François Hollande in early September to discuss ways to deal with the crisis.
The last time most Germans were seriously thinking about a civil defence plan, this was a central part of it. A bunker beneath Berlin designed to withstand a nuclear blast and save the lives of potentially thousands of people.
People can stay here 2 weeks and we have everything they need barely for 2 weeks. Not more. They are okay. There's a storage room for food, which will be filled before the bunker gets in action. And there are toilets and things like that. And there are, for example, an air filter system.
Built in 1974, now a museum. In recent decades, a lower level of domestic threat of any kind meant protection on the home front became less of a priority.
More than a dozen of these bunkers were constructed across Berlin at a time when many genuinely feared nuclear confrontation. Now, for the first time since the Cold War, the German government has seen fit to update its civil defence strategy and adapt it to new kinds of threats.
Plans reportedly include dealing with hybrid conflict, a term widely used to describe alleged Russian actions in Ukraine and terrorism. The government rejects accusations the risk is exaggerated.
Opposition parties gave the impression that the government is asking the public to panic buy goods. That is wrong. What we want is strong citizens who can live safely in freedom, and strength comes through reasonable preparation.
The announcement has been mocked by some. Others see it as sensible.
And this was overdue. So the whole context of that is, of course, security-wise, but it also has elements of what to do in times of a catastrophe, what to do when sensitive networks break down. You have to be prepared, and I think this common sense preparedness is something that the Germans had lost after the end of the Cold War.
The days of nuclear bunkers may be long gone, but nonetheless, Germany is once again preparing for the very worst.
And a powerful 6.8 magnitude earthquake struck Myanmar on Wednesday, leaving at least 3 dead and damaging some of the country's centuries-old temples. The quake was so powerful that it was also felt in Thailand, Bangladesh and India. The US Geological Survey says the quake struck 25 kilometers west of Chauk at a depth of 84 kilometers. The affected area is located on an active earthquake zone and regularly experiences tremors, but rarely of this magnitude. The last major quake to hit Myanmar was in 2012.
The earthquake damaged around 100 Buddhist pagodas in the ancient city of Bagan. The ancient archaeological sites there are among Myanmar's most popular tourist destinations, and the temples were built between the 10th and the 14th centuries.
Horrific scenes still unfolding at this hour in Italy, where rescuers are frantically trying to get to those trapped under the rubble after a devastating earthquake. Hundreds are still missing. These images coming in a short time ago, rescuers pulling a baby from under the wreckage. And tonight, at least 159 dead, hundreds more injured. People stunned in the streets today. The 6.2 magnitude quake unleashing more than 200 aftershocks already. Felt all the way to Rome, 100 miles away.
Tonight, rescuers are in a race against time, clawing through the rubble to find survivors. Rescue teams have been working all day with dogs in this town. Just a few minutes ago, one of the dogs seems to have alerted on this rubble. They put a listening device in there, hoping against hope. Dozens already rescued from under the huge piles of stone and wood. This man speaking to an 80-year-old woman pinned beneath a collapsed building. Can you breathe, he asks her, telling her to stay calm, and we are waiting for help to come. And help did arrive. She was eventually saved and brought to a hospital to recover. And this afternoon, more signs of life in the rubble. Rescuers pull a little boy and then a little girl out of the wreckage, both survivors. Overwhelmed residents banding together with rescue workers to help anyone still trapped, moving debris like an assembly line, stone by stone. This team working tirelessly in near silence to hear anyone who might be calling for help. Officials say scores have been found, but the death toll is steadily rising. At least 159 now declared dead. Those are the hardest moments. It's been just over 17 hours since the quake. They're still pulling bodies out of the rubble.
We begin with a developing story in the Midwest. Late today, at least 2 tornadoes touched down in central Indiana, and the authorities are just beginning to assess the damage. The twisters struck near Indianapolis and about 50 miles north in the Kokomo area.
Drivers in Kokomo captured the twister as it formed.
Oh my God, Starbucks just got blown over.
Customers inside this restaurant captured the moment it touched down. The tornado blew the roof off this Starbucks and flattened its walls. Witnesses rushed to the scene to help those inside. The tornado also blew through this apartment complex, breaking windows, tossing cars, and scattering debris as far as the eye could see. This photo shows a car and truck toppled on top of each other amid fallen trees and dangling wires.
Look, you can see it's good right there.
The National Weather Service described the twister as large and destructive. Winds blew so strong and sudden, people ran for their lives.
And I came out and it was just like a whole new world out here.
14-year-old Jalen Givens was home with his sister when the tornado struck.
It jerked the door out of my hand and I had to shut it. And then we ran into the bathroom and then the furnace exploded and we all hid in the tub. It was scary.
Have wonderful, wonderful volunteers working, devoting their time to help these folks. And it's the beauty of our community, not just in Louisiana, but America, man. This is America. And this is what Americans do when we face trial and tribulation. We love each other. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with offering prayer? But God sent me a reminder about some of the larger challenges we face. The Harmon Center is a Red Cross shelter now. It's officially designated a Red Cross shelter. The Red Cross people here are great. They're wonderful people. They have Red Cross rules that they have to follow. And do you know what one of those rules is? A man can't walk around the shelter and offer love and prayer to let them know that there are people out there caring about them and loving them and praying for them. What's wrong with that? What part of our First Amendment that allegedly, I guess, the Red Cross rules are attempting to reflect, what part of our First Amendment guarantees a freedom from religion.
Vandals put that explosive right here behind me in this newspaper stand in the center of town. They targeted the gay paper, and police think that it was a hate crime. The blast lit up the sidewalk. Smoke filled downtown Salem. That early morning explosion could be heard a mile away. Police say this group of 7 targeted the local gay paper.
There are 2 individuals right here who are actually placing the explosive in the newspaper box.
So the entire inner layer was blown to pieces.
That box owned by the Rainbow Times. The editor says their boxes went up 3 months ago. Right away, vandals hit, now a dozen times. First with trash.
It filled from the base of the newspaper box all the way up to the top. So when you open the door, like literally a pile of trash fell on you. At the same time, it was urinated, and I do think it is a hate crime.
Police think so too. With each new crime, police decided to put boxes in view of cameras. Then this.
I don't know why anyone would want to do something like that, honestly. It's obviously a hate crime to the gay community.
Shocked locals say Salem is a gay-friendly town. Paper says it's not backing down. They're setting up more boxes.
We're going to stay here. This gives us even more incentive to go ahead and promote not only the message of the paper, but the inclusion that this beautiful city is all about.
And a public play of one of Shakespeare's classics is offering a very revealing performance. But some feel that the show at a Brooklyn park shows too much.
Cheerily, my hearts!
This is a dress rehearsal for a dressed-down performance of Shakespeare's The Tempest. The all-female cast will be all nude come showtime next month inside Brooklyn's Prospect Park. These are pictures from the group's performance earlier this year in Central Park.
We were really interested in getting an audience to be able to see nudity as non-sexual, non-threatening, and eventually not even strange.
The actors say it sends a message of body positivity.
It's being courageously vulnerable and generous with yourself as an artist, first and foremost, and saying, I'm doing this for this purpose.
The performance breaks no laws. Nudity is allowed in New York City. You've seen it before in Times Square, and in both cases, it's considered part of an artistic performance.
Secret surveillance aircraft in the skies over Baltimore. For the first time, city police confirm the program that was not disclosed to the public.
Vic, it's creating a lot of outrage. This plane was taking pictures of people in neighborhoods across this city, and critics say it had little oversight and was ripe for abuse. This Cessna plane has been flying over Baltimore for 300 hours at various times since last January, taking pictures in a 35-mile radius, beaming them back to a small office near police headquarters where a private and secretly funded contractor watched the street-level images, then prepared reports for police. Authorities failed to even disclose its existence until Bloomberg Business exposed the surveillance, yet got upset at the monitoring being referred to as secret.
Secrecy is not the correct word because it's not a secret spy program. That is absolutely false.
Bloomberg reported the person funding the flights is Texas billionaire, former Enron trader, and philanthropist John Arnold, who donated the money to the nonprofit Baltimore Community Foundation. But Ross McNutt, the founder of Persistent Surveillance Systems, wouldn't name him.
I'm not at liberty to say that. I can just tell you that it's a wealthy individual.
This is our camera system. It's 192 million pixels, which makes it about equivalent to 800 video cameras at once.
Let us decide on whether we want this type of invasion or not.
Spying, that's what it is. Spying on people in their home.
Jay Stanley with the ACLU has fought this surveillance around the country and says Baltimore police failed by not disclosing its citizens were being monitored.
A new planet has been discovered that may be Earth-like, and it's really, really close. If we're ever going to look for life outside our solar system, this is probably where we'll start. Here's what scientists say about it. The planet might have liquid water, which is crucial to life as we know it. It's in the habitable zone, that sweet spot where it's not too hot or too cold to have water on its surface. The planet orbits the closest known star to ours, Proxima Centauri, about 4.25 light years away. It's in the southern sky, but it's too dim to see with the naked eye. 4 light years is nothing in space terms, but it's still too far to travel to anytime soon. Our most pie-in-the-sky technology would still take decades to carry a probe there. if we do ever travel there, it should feel somewhat familiar. The planet is about the same size as Earth, meaning gravity would be close to what we're used to. But its days and nights would be strange. It circles its sun every 11 days. It's tempting to get excited about an Earth-like planet that couldn't be any closer, but there are some big unknowns. It's not clear yet whether the planet has an atmosphere or a magnetic field. Without those, the odds of finding life are pretty much zero. Luckily, we don't have to wait too long to learn more. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is set to launch in 2018, and it will be able to look for an atmosphere. And Stephen Hawking is supporting a plan to send a probe to nearby Alpha Centauri.